everyone! In this video, I will be talking about half steps, whole steps, and accidentals. So let's start with some definitions. First one, it's a half step, which is usually written as H for short, and it is the smallest distance between two notes. And a half step can also be called a semitone. For example, between B and C. This is a half step because this is the smallest distance between these two notes. There's nothing in the middle. But many people often confuse this because normally a half step would be one black key and one white key as shown here. But this is not the case between B and C or E and F. This is really important to remember. And the next definition, it's a whole step, which is written as W, and it is made up of two half steps. So for example here, this is one half step and this is two half steps. Therefore, between C and D, it's a whole step. Now we can move on to accidentals. So an accidental is a symbol that raises or lowers the pitch of a note. An accidental is placed directly in front of the note, to which it applies and remains in effect until the end of the measure. So a sharp sign, which looks like this, it raises the pitch of a note by one half step. And a flat sign, which is basically the opposite of a sharp sign, it lowers the pitch of a note by one half step. And here, a natural sign, it basically cancels a sharp or a flat. So when a natural sign is placed in front of a note that was previously sharp, it lowers that note and that note becomes natural. And when a natural sign is placed in front of a note that was previously flat, it raises that note. It basically just cancels any accidental or key signature. Next up is enharmonic equivalents. So pitches with different names that sound the same are called enharmonic equivalents. Two different spellings can be used for the same pitch. For example, G sharp and A flat. They represent the same black key on the piano keyboard, and that's why they're called enharmonic equivalents. And here we have other examples. This is F sharp and G flat, which is this black key, or C sharp and D flat, which is this black key. Now that we know all this, we can move on to chromatic and diatonic half steps. We know that there's a whole step and there's half steps, but there's actually two types of half steps. The first type is called a chromatic half step. It's basically a half step that's written using notes with the same letter name. So an accidental is used to raise or lower the first note by a half step. So here, for example, C and C sharp. We have to use the same letter names. So here it's both C, therefore it's a chromatic half step. And same here. The C sharp raises the C by a half step. And here we have an example of a natural sign that's canceling the sharp before it. So here it's F sharp, here it's F natural. That basically lowers F sharp by one half step. And this is called a chromatic half step because both use F. And the other type of half step is called a diatonic half step. That's when a half step is written using two different letter names. For example, C and D flat. D flat and C are actually the same notes. D flat and C sharp are actually the same notes on the piano. They sound the exact same, but they can be written differently. So that's the difference between a chromatic half step and a diatonic half step. Here we use C and D, but here we only use C. Now we can do some exercises. Here are some exercises that can help you practice writing diatonic and chromatic half steps. I'll do two examples, and the correction for the rest will be shown after. Let's start with this example. Here we have a B flat in bass clef. And if we want to write a chromatic half step above the note, we would have to use the same letter name, which is B. And to raise this note, we would have to cancel the B flat. And to raise B flat, we would have to cancel the flat. And to raise B flat, we would have to cancel the flat. So we use a natural sign. You write it like this. For the next example, let's look at this one. This one is telling us to write a diatonic half step below the note. So if we want to write a diatonic half step, that means we have to use different letter names. This is a C, and one note below the C is B. So we use the letter name B. And now we check if we need to use any accidentals. Well, we don't actually need any accidental because between C and B, it's a half step already. If we look on the piano here, C and B, this is the half step. Therefore, we don't need to add any accidental. Here are the corrections to all the exercises. I hope this video was helpful. And thanks for watching. See you guys next time.